All right, let's go over my keynote address. So the subject of the keynote address is that we have there's a bifurcation in industry. Okay, there's really two schools of thought. There's a school of thought from the IT layer above, and then there's a school of thought from the OT layer down. And what we're going to try and do is merge those together in 2021. We've seen trends in the right direction towards the end of 2020. We're going to try to merge those together going forward. I want to do a quick year in review for our community. So most of the people who are on here are members of our community. So in our YouTube channel, which you guys are all familiar with, believe it or not, we only published 54 videos the whole year, which kind of surprised me. But we had a whopping 3.5 million impressions out of those 54 videos with over 22,000 watch hours. And we added more than 4,800 subscribers to our channel, which is something like 70% of the total subscription base. On LinkedIn, we had more than 250 posts with a total of 440,000 impressions. We try to use LinkedIn to just communicate quickly with the community, but really all of the work that we do for the community, the stuff that we try to disseminate is through the YouTube channel and through Discord. And on Discord, we launched the Discord server in August of 2020. As of today, we have 889 members in the Discord. It may even be higher now. And a number that really shocked me, this is much higher than I would have anticipated, more than 50% of all those 889 members are active on the server at least once a week. That's a huge number for a Discord server. So some interesting things that we did during the year for the community. So we did, if you go to intellect.online, you can see all the stuff that we've been offering to the community. And we started a mentorship program in September. Right now, the mentorship program is 2 steps. Step 1 is all Ignition, it's Ignition University, it's Python, basic SQL, it's the IIoT mini course. Step 2 is Factory Studio, which we're launching today, the Frameworks University. It's advanced Python development, advanced SQL, it's MES, and it's analytics using Python in step 2. Group 1 started in September, so our initial mentees, the guinea pigs, as we like to call them, the member of they're the federation group, right? There were 46 of them that started in September. Only 10 of them completed the training, which is what we expected. Our training is, there are no participation awards in IIoT or Industry 4.0. There are 10 people who completed the training in 3.5 months, give or take. There were 36 that were at various stages, people as far as maybe 90% complete, and some that hadn't even started. There are members of step 1 who aren't even who aren't even there to do the training. So, but 10 completed the training. Group 2, so the second group of mentees, there's actually 112 as of last week. I know there are people who've been added. There are 112 people in that new group. So obviously mentorship has exploded in popularity. And so we've got 112 people going through step 1 training, starting effective last week. And now we've got 10 people who are moving on to step 2. And one of the things that we've talked about internally as an organization is, as a team with education and outreach, is one of the things that I've always complained about in my career, my 22 years in automation, is that, everyone who goes to a training gets a certificate. You know what I mean? Even the guy who was hungover the whole week and sleeping, he still gets a certificate saying he completed the training. He gets certified. It says this is to certify. And I've always thought that was absurd. That devalues the piece of paper. So our focus has always been, when we decided to do education and outreach, we are prepared. We expect not everyone to complete mentorship. We expect people to fail the first time around. We want the certification to mean something. Anyway, that's the approach that we take. The other thing that we did this year is we did Digital Mastermind. So the mentorship program is all about, when we decided to do mentorship for the community, it was all about helping people develop professionally as engineers so that they could do Industry 4.0 projects, right? It was all about developing their technical skills. Digital Mastermind is another group of people, and there is overlap. If you do Digital Mastermind, you're automatically a member of mentorship. The Digital Mastermind is all about developing people to lead Industry 4.0 projects, to be the change agent, to be the Scrum Master, to be the product owner of digital transformation in an organization. And the reason we did that is because, and most of the engineers that are on here know that the way that digital transformation works, the way it works today is some Harvard MBA who is a high-level CEO at a large blue chip goes to a Gartner conference or goes out to lunch with his buddies from McKinsey or Accenture and guys he went to college with, and they talk about digital transformation, and he has no idea what it is. He or she has no idea what digital transformation is, but he gets scared because he's afraid other people are using it, are doing it. And he just goes to some smart techie person at his organization or hires one off the street and says, "You're our digital transformation director." And the mandate that they give that person is, digitally transform us. Let's do more with what we have. That's literally the scope of the mandate. That there's no other additional direction. Well, what we're finding is that the people who are getting hired for these digital transformation director positions never worked on the plant floor, know nothing about automation really, other than what they've read, have no experience trying to integrate disparate systems, and they design an architecture. They try to buy an off-the-shelf solution from Rockwell or PTC or Siemens or Schneider or any of the people that are on this Magic Quadrant here. And by the way, I look at this Magic Quadrant. We'll talk about it here in a second. There are only 2 companies on here that belong there. Okay, of all the companies that are on there, there are only two on there that I'd put in that quadrant. That's how disconnected the C-level people are, the IT people are, with what actually happens on the plant floor. Most of these platforms that are sitting here in the Magic Quadrant, you couldn't digitally transform an organization with. The vast majority, 80% of them. And yet, Gartner is going to charge you to view this quadrant. People call me and say, "Hey, well, so-and-so was a leader in the Hitachi solution." Hitachi is not a leader in digital transformation or in IoT. They're not. Neither is Microsoft, actually. Azure, they have a great Azure solution, but that's only one piece of the puzzle. It's not an IoT platform that could live in the middle. But anyway, there's this big bifurcation between IT and OT. So how does digital transformation start? It starts, the way that it's starting today is some executive says we're going to digitally transform. Doesn't know what it means, doesn't know how to start, hire somebody as a digital transformation director. They have no idea what they're doing. They don't know where to start. And so digital mastermind is all around teaching those people how to do what they've been asked to do. Right? So the people that are on this call, the members of the community, this army of like-minded individuals that we're creating, the reason we're creating this army is so that we can, fundamentally change the way people think, start by fundamentally changing the way that people think, which will then fundamentally change the way that they approach solving problems. And then they can go and teach people how to think differently and how to solve problems differently, right? That's the whole point of the Army. Digital Mastermind, we had 28 people go through the first step of Digital Mastermind. We had 22 go through the second step. So there's a lot that we're doing with education and outreach centered around Industry 4.0 and IIoT. And what we're hoping, and I saw Industry 4.0 TV's on here. I can't pronounce his first name, but I'm a huge fan of his content. There are only a couple of content providers out there in Industry 4.0 and IIoT that I enjoy. RealPars is one of them. I like what RealPars does. I like what Emil does in terms of all his training. I've taken a bunch of
the automation channel. I love his content.
Automation channel, Industry 4.0 TV. But we need more people in the community creating content that provides value to professionals, not commercials. Okay, so if you want to send me an email and find out, hey, how is it you guys get so many people to watch your videos? It's really simple. We don't sell anything. We're not marketing. All we're doing is we're saying things that people already think, and we're trying to provide value to the community. If you do the same thing, people will watch your videos. It's really that simple. All right, let's talk about Industry 4.0. There's a bifurcation in thinking. There's basically 2 groups of thought right now in Industry 4.0. That is, when we decide we're going to digitally transform, there is what people think and know from the IT layer and above. So from the ERP layer up through cloud, and then there's a different school of thought between the people for the OT people, the people from the MES layer down. Okay, and whether or not you are successful in digital transformation, okay, is a function of which thought leader is leading your venture. Zach, you care to guess where your thought leader needs to be? Do they need to be an IT thinker, or do they need to be an OT thinker?
I would say that they need to be an OT thinker, because the plant floor is where the rubber hits the road.
That's right. The plant floor is where your business operates. Okay. So this is a message to the executives, the C levels who are selecting their digital transformation directors. If you are hiring vice presidents of technology who have never written a PLC program in their life, or they have never integrated a SCADA platform with and an HMI platform with an embedded controller and a series of PLCs, or they have never had to integrate a series of disparate PLC systems through a communications gateway to some unified piece of software. They've never done those things, and they don't have people on their team who have done those things. Then we can assure you you're going to fail in the first iteration. Okay. The people who are best suited to leading digital transformation are people who have backgrounds on the plant floor, specifically centered around technology. Okay. If you go IT up, I'm about to show you the flawed architectures that they deploy and why they don't scale. Then what will happen is you will pick the wrong technology, you will pick the wrong partners, and you will use the wrong strategy if you don't have the right leader in digital transformation. Okay. And so with that, I want to go over the problem with prevailing thought. So Zach, did my screen switch? Awesome. All right. So we got a problem with Zoom and Mac. So all right, so the problem with the current prevailing thought, if you guys want to see the way that most Industry 4.0 projects, most digital transformation initiatives start today, they start trying to do this, okay? So on the left-hand side here, we have our automation stack, PLC Edge, human machine interface, SCADA, MES, ERP, and cloud. Cloud is the newest layer, okay? ERP is the most segmented layer. It's the layer that IT never lets you talk to, but it's got really important stuff, okay? Then MES, SCADA, HMI, and PLC Edge, that's all your OT stuff, okay? The way that most IT or IIoT platforms try to solve your problem, okay, is what I've done is I've recreated the stack here. This is the type of architecture that you're gonna see if we go back to our magic quadrant, all of those platforms, nearly all of them, try to bridge the gap between Industry 3.0 and 4.0 by being solution centered. Okay, we talk about this all the time. They want to use a solution centered approach, an off the shelf piece of software. So here's what they do. What they do is they have a series of edge objects that they develop. So Litmus automation is a good one here, although I'm a big fan of Litmus. Litmus is a good example here. Litmus they have edge objects that run in like an edge device, and those edge objects are designed to map to the cloud infrastructure. For you software developers, the edge objects are essentially data models that are modeled to templates in the cloud platform. Okay. For you PLC folks, the edge objects are user-defined data types, they're UDTs, or they're like add-on instructions inside of a ControlLogix PLC that then map to a cloud, to a template inside the cloud platform. Okay, that is the approach that they try to take to digitally transform organizations, to create an IIoT infrastructure. Okay, the problem is the fundamental issue with the approach that they take is that it's project-based, number one. Number two, they still try to approach it using a waterfall methodology. Number three, this approach is a top-down approach. That is, we're gonna buy an off-the-shelf piece of software and we're gonna just integrate everything. I mean, just you think about this weird idea that, hey, we're gonna take one piece of software and have it talk to our entire business. They start by asking for quantified ROI up front, okay? And oftentimes when they do this, they will pick multiple IIoT platforms. They'll put different directors in the organization in charge of a different platform. So, hey, we're going to have this guy be in charge of or this guy or gal in charge of the PTC ThingWorx initiative. We're going to have this guy or gal in charge of the AWS initiative. we're going to have this guy or gal in charge of the Azure initiative, this guy or gal in charge of the Kafka homebrew initiative. We'll have all four of them compete together. We'll compete against one another, and whichever one provides the most value, that's the one we'll go with, right? That's the approach that they're generally taking. From a technical perspective, most of the solutions that are being used today, the solution-centered approach, looks like this. They want to install some edge objects out in the field. They want to use a cloud platform that can talk to those edge objects. And then what they'll do is they'll put a connector, a series of connectors between the cloud software with that IIoT software and your HMI layer, your SCADA layer, MES layer, ERP layer. In most cases, what's happening is they're putting OSI Pi. They're putting OSI Pi here. This is by far the most common question we get. They'll put OSI Pi here. And OSI Pi will consume, data points from the MES, SCADA, HMI layer, and then they basically use some connector OSI Pi has to try and route that data into the cloud infrastructure, the IIoT infrastructure. We call this the linear approach. This is a solution-centered linear integration approach, right? We're passing data, the industry 3.0, passing data up the stack. That's the approach that's taken. If you look at all those solutions inside of the Gartner Magic Quadrant, every single one of them take this approach. Okay, to kind of drive home in a more meaningful way, every manufacturer, this is their business. They sell stuff, they plan to manufacture stuff, they execute the manufacturing of that stuff, they monitor and control the plants while they're manufacturing, they monitor and control the machines while they're manufacturing, they inventory that stuff, they ship it, and then they get paid and they order materials and they do it all over again. This is your business. What you're looking at here could be the business. This could be a business unit workflow. It could be an individual facility, or it could be it could be an area within your facility. There are organizations that have many ERPs. There are organizations that use many CRMs. There are organizations that use many MES systems. There are organizations that use many SCADA systems. Nothing is unified. Everything within the organization has its own master data model. Everything has its own data. Everything creates its own information. And when we try to digitally transform, what we basically try to do using this solution-centered approach over here is they try to just put a data layer in. They try to put in a data lake. They try to send as much as they can from all these individual application nodes into that data lake. And then in the big data layer, in the cloud layer, the IIoT layer, they try to do machine learning, artificial intelligence, analytics, and create single pane of glass, single point of entry, your universal dashboards by just retrieving the data from the data lake, right? That's what everyone's trying to do, right?
That won't scale. That will never scale.
Right. There's no way in a keynote address to go through and explain why this doesn't scale. What you have to do is trust people who do this, that this doesn't scale. You will hit critical mass. Okay, this is not possible. You'll need an army of engineers, millions of engineers moving your data around. Okay. Okay, so I want to quickly go through what's the problem with the approaches. This is what we see in Industry 4.0 and why you're failing. Okay, so if you're an executive watching this, if you are a digital vice president of technology, if you're the new digital transformation guru for your organization, here's why you're failing. Okay, you're approaching digital transformation with old thinking. I've already gone through that. You're going through, you're thinking project-based, you're thinking waterfall, you're thinking top-down. We're going to implement this from the top down. You're thinking, I want to quantify ROI before I ever start, and I'm going to create a competition. We're going to try 5 or 6 different IIoT platforms, and we're going to put 5 or 6 different people in charge of it, and whoever provides the most value, we're going to go with their solution, right? Here's another problem. You're integrating with old technology and strategies. So your infrastructure is most likely being built on OPC UA. Okay, you're using pull response. So each of the software layers that we showed you you're asking them to pull and respond for data, or pull for information and data from some central location and getting a response for that data. Okay, that doesn't scale. It uses up far too much bandwidth in your network, and it creates security vulnerabilities. Okay, you're creating new data silos with each application that you're installing. So with each new piece of software you're installing, you're creating new data silos. One that you have to come up with a new solution to integrate. You don't mitigate your edge. You're milestone driven. Okay, so because you're milestone driven, you are focused on what it is you plan to do from the very beginning, as opposed to adjusting to your new needs based on your new knowledge that you acquire by digitally transforming. Okay, and everything is based on linear point-to-point connections. That your applications are all connected to one another in this big stack, as opposed to them being connected to a unified namespace where they consume and publish data and information to. So the issues that you're facing is digital transformation takes too long, it doesn't scale, it doesn't mitigate any of the edge cases, it isn't agile, and you run out of patience before you realize your value. This is why there are more white papers out there right now about, is digital transformation a pipe dream? Okay. So why do you fail? You fail because you're using the wrong strategy, you've picked the wrong partners, or you're using the wrong technology. Who are the right partners? The answer is pretty much anyone who's watching this video, watching this live stream, anyone who's a member of the Industry 4.0 community, anyone who is creating open technologies that are report by exception, edge-driven, lightweight, and open architecture. Those are the right partners, okay? All right, so now let's take a look at what actually works. And we're gonna be doing case studies. So Zach, did it switch the slide?
Yeah, so right now I'm looking at UNS at the top and what works.
Okay, awesome. Let me go ahead and close this. All right.
Yep, good.
All right, so now this is the exact same workflow. Here's what works. We're going to be releasing a case study this year actually 2 case studies that will illustrate how to successfully implement this architecture and how you can fully digital transform an organization in 2 years or less. Both case studies that we're doing were 2-year engagements to do the 2-year engagements to get them to the point where, okay, we're fully unified, now we're ready to do machine learning. So what we do is, instead of having these linear connections between applications, we use a unified namespace in the middle that is based on a common technology stack. That common technology stack that we use is Mqtt. Not any particular flavor of Mqtt, but hey, all of our nodes are going to talk Mqtt, and they are going to publish and subscribe from a unified namespace in the middle of our organization. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to show you how we do this at the enterprise level as opposed to just the plant level. Okay. This box here is one plant. What we're gonna say is, I've got 2 facilities. One is, they're both using the same CRM flavor, but they've got different ERPs. One is SAP and one is just flat Oracle. What we do is we create a unified namespace at the plant layer. Okay, and that unified namespace essentially unifies all the data within the plant using the ISA 95 standard. So enterprise, site, area, line, cell. We organize the data that way. We add additional nodes, and those nodes are application nodes. We don't call them application nodes. We call them function nodes. So for a new functionality, it gets a location in the namespace for its data and information to go. Right? We create a unified namespace based on a common technology stack in each plant. Now that you could also have a unified namespace in an area of a plant, and then you could publish the unified namespace from that area to the plant unified namespace, and then from the plant unified namespace to the enterprise unified namespace. So what we've got is an example of 2 facilities, both have their own unified namespaces, structured site, area, line, cell, with function namespaces. Then what we do is we have a unified namespace for the entire enterprise that both of those namespaces are published to. And we have additional functionalities. And those additional functionalities are things like machine learning. Instead of using a data lake or a data layer directly above these facilities, what we're doing is we're publishing the entire unified namespace and aggregating it at the enterprise level. And your machine learning solutions are subscribing to the data that's being pushed from your instrumentation, that's being pushed from your applications, your MES system, your ERP at the plant layer. And then artificial intelligence is also publishing and consuming from the unified namespace. Other things that happen at the enterprise level, dashboarding, you're creating your single pane of glass, your single point of entry. If you're an executive that's looking at, when I want to walk into any facility across the globe and I want to have, I want to walk into any facility anywhere in the world and I want to see the same style of dashboard no matter where I go. I want every employee on the plant floor to be viewing the same KPIs across the organization. The way you achieve that in a way that is scalable, in a way that is useful, in a way that is lightweight, in a way that has a short time to value is this architecture here. Okay, and we're going to be releasing 2 case studies this year to show it. I'm going to answer Siam's question. So Siam asked the question, is Spark-Plug-B just for integrating data from the PLC to the unified namespace, or can it be used with MES and ERP also? The great question. The answer is this. Within your organization, when you create an IIoT infrastructure, and I'm going to go over some important points here in a minute, we treat all the smart things in the business as a node in the ecosystem. Okay, so anything that's smart. So that is PLC, a piece of software, an embedded controller, even a human being plugged into the network. You treat them all as a node in the ecosystem. The Spark-Plug-B is a way of packaging the data from a smart thing. So it doesn't matter what that smart thing is, human being, PLC, embedded controller, machine learning model, ERP, MES, SCADA. Spark-Plug-B is a way of formatting and packaging that data. That's it. That's all it is, and it works across for any node in the ecosystem. All right, I want to drive home a couple of points here. So important concepts for digital transformation, right? Those mentees and digital mastermind folks, so you should be familiar with this already. But I open every meeting by reading these again. Number 1, digital transformation is a strategy, not a project, okay? Number 2, digital transformation is about transforming the way manufacturers operate their businesses by leveraging data they generate every day, but never or rarely consume in real time. Number 3, with respect to digital transformation, not everyone can be helped. Invest your energy on the businesses you can help. Start with finding people who admit they have a problem. There are a lot of reasons why digital transformation fail, and not all of them are the fault of the technology you picked. Internal politics. One of the approaches that you have to take with digital transformation is, and we take this approach every day with our large enterprise customers, is we never try to replace anything they already have. Our approach is always to augment what they already have. If you're going to be doing digital transformation and you think that you're going to be able to go in and replace a platform that 200 people's jobs rely on, and that there's a guy making $200,000 a year, the product owner is making $200,000 a year managing this platform, and you think you're going to be able to go in there and replace it with a platform of your choice, you're kidding yourself. All 200 of those people are going to conspire against you to get rid of you. Okay? So your approach has to be to don't go in trying to replace anything. Go in trying to augment what is already there. Okay? Some important definitions. Industry 3.0 is the automation of manufacturing processes, which created digital data. Think we went from relay logics to PLCs. Industry 4.0 is the digital integration and automation of business processes, creating information. Digital transformation is all about going from manual or paper processes to integrated digital processes. It's not just digitization, taking something paper and turning it into a digital report. Digital transformation is also about moving to integrated digital processes. IIoT is the ecosystem we create by digitally transforming business filled with connected things. One of the biggest frustrations we have in Industry 4.0 is, and I'm going to go back to Gartner's Magic Quadrant here in a minute, though all of those applications that are in Gartner's Magic Quadrant, nearly all of them, there are a couple of exceptions on there. They want to be the singular solution that you're using for IIoT. Their idea is to be the singular solution. They do not approach digital transformation as our solution is a node in an ecosystem that has to play nice with one another. And that's one of the prerequisites of successfully digitally transforming. Some important general concepts with digital transforming, okay? Can't stress these enough. Number one, you have to know what your digital strategy is. If you are in the process of digitally transforming and you don't know what your digital strategy is, stop. Don't do anything else. Stop, take 2 steps back, and call a meeting and put down on paper what your digital strategy is. What does a digital strategy look like? What is our problem? What do we believe the solution to our problem is? Okay. What do we believe the solution to our problem is? How do we want to approach solving that problem? Okay. And how do we want to approach solving that problem? And how are we going to adjust to changes in how are we going to adjust to changes that are invariably going to come down the road? That's an example of the questions you have to answer before you know you have a digital strategy, a sound digital strategy. Number 2, you got to approach every project as one part of a bigger whole, okay? Not as standalone. How does this fit into our overall architecture? Number 3, most important, for your OT people, for your PLC programmers, for your HMI developers, for your SCADA developers, your MES developers, you cannot make any assumptions about how data will be consumed. What does that mean? What it means is that all of the data points inside of a PLC are going to mean something to someone, to some consumer. So stop filtering out the things that you think no one will care about. That's a very good illustration of what I'm talking about here. Number 4, treat all producers and consumers of data as a node in an ecosystem. Number 5, build a technology stack, the slide above. And number 6, you got to remain agile. Agility is all about being able to adjust to how your knowledge expands. Part of digital transformation, and we'll go over this in our case studies, part of digital transformation is your entire organization learns things during the process. As you're implementing your process, the whole organization, its knowledge base is growing. And what we want, what functionalities we want, what features we want, is always a function of what we know. So we have to have a mechanism to adjust to our changing knowledge, which will lend to our changing desires, okay? And agile project management is the way to do this, okay? Real quick, what is the steps to digital transformation? I want to thank you to Michael who did this. One of our guys, Michael, put this together for one of our clients, and I just decided to snag it. I generally just draw it. But the steps to digital transformation is, there are some prerequisite steps and then this iterative process. So number 1, you're going to inventory the business, the whole business. Number 2, you're going to inventory the intelligence within the business. Number 3, you're going to connect all the intelligence to the network. Number 4, you're going to integrate all that intelligence into a unified namespace. Number 5, you're going to present some information. You're going to people, to consumers. You're going to learn from the new knowledge, and then you're going to expand the unified namespace and the features that visualize what's in the unified namespace based on that new knowledge. In a nutshell, in 60 seconds, that is digital transformation. All right, let me go to an example of what works. I want to show you guys a couple of things, and I'm going to apologize to the factory studio guys. I have an existing demo that uses Ignition. I wasn't going to use it because all that normal politics stuff, but because the demo is already running and everybody, everyone here, the mentees and the digital mastermind folks already have stuff living in a unified namespace that we share. You guys are going to see Ignition, but we're actually going to replace, I'm not going to replace, I'm going to plug Factory Studio into the ecosystem. So you guys will hear us talk all the time that, you know, we use Ignition and Factory Studio interchangeably. They both can serve the exact same purpose within our ecosystem. So when I show you this, you can easily put Factory Studio in the place of where Ignition is here, because they both support the same technology stack. Okay. So I've got on my desk over here, you guys are going to be seeing a video on the Zoom Edge. That this device here in the lower left-hand corner is a Zoom Edge. It's from FreeWave. It is an IIoT device, okay? And it supports all of the technologies that our technology stack. So it supports MQTT 3.1.1 and SparkPlug-B. And I've got, I think, 16 I/O points on here. They are configurable I/O, which is kind of cool. So, you know, channel 1, 2, 3, and 4, I can decide if I want an analog, digital, whatever. And then I have a little breadboard here that's got a potentiometer. I've got a little LED. So if I push that button in the center of the breadboard, that LED lights up. That also closes a Boolean in the FreeWave. And then that pot will adjust a set point in our unified namespace. So what I've got is a unified namespace in the cloud that all the mentees are familiar with. I'm going to show you guys that here in a second. And I'm going to show you how I brought this device into my office this morning. The only thing that I did was plug the network cable into it and turn the power on. That's all I did. It was already pre-configured to connect to the unified namespace and publish its data into the broker. So as I adjust the pot, you guys will see that value change. So we're going to go to Factory Studio here in a second. All right, so I'm going to just quickly show you guys. So we're looking at a unified namespace here right now, an active unified namespace. And again, we're using Ignition to look at this, but the fact that we're looking at Ignition is not important. I can put Factory Studio in here, and we will later on in the year, probably in another couple of weeks, where we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to plug Factory Studio into the ecosystem and show you this. Okay. So we have a unified namespace here. During all of our training, we have our engineers all over the world are building applications with their own unified namespaces. And then when we're done, we have them publish into a centralized unified namespace, just like, you know, I was showing you what works. Okay. So some of these haven't been connected for months. You know, so if I want to look and see what's live right now, if I go to the engine info and I go to my edge nodes, I can look at what nodes are online right here. And I see that I've got 5 nodes online. That means I've got 5 devices publishing right now. Okay. And if I look at the device IDs, I've got Ben Vanima's machine is publishing to me right now. Default, I have my Kepler namespace is publishing. The Zoom Edge, which I've got next to me, is publishing. I've got a demo that's running that's publishing. And then I have an example. This is a life sciences example that are all publishing into the namespace as we speak. So if I go down here to my Zoom Edge, which I've got sitting next to me over here. And remember, all I did this morning was all I did this morning was make sure that I was plugged in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop my headset. I'm going to turn this off and turn it back on, and we'll watch it refresh. All right.
Yeah. And when I did Digital Mastermind Step 1, or when we did it, I was, you know, kind of focusing on the Zoom stuff, but I also played along with, and I installed Ignition on my MacBook. Well, when we did Digital Mastermind Step 2, it turned out I was like still publishing that whole entire time from my MacBook. Anytime my local host MacBook booted up, I was running an Ignition gateway server, like while I was editing videos and stuff. Like I've forgotten about it, but all right. So we're looking at the Mqtt Explorer.
Yep. So what I want to show you is I use a little tool here. So I've got this Ignition broker. It's actually not Ignition that's running up there, but I call it Ignition because that's what I was demoing with. So all I did was I've reset my this Zoom Edge. So all I did was plug it in, connect it to the network. That's the only thing that we've done. And
Dan,
yep.
Dan asked what the FreeWave part number was. Oh, there it is.
That's a good question. Hold on a second. Just, hey, Dan, look up Zoom Edge, ZUMEDGE. But okay, so now the device is connected. I restarted it. And now as what I'm doing right now is I'm adjusting the potentiometer, and we'll watch the sensor value drop, okay? So you should see it drop to 11.59, give or take. We're also monitoring the board temperature. So when we talk about open technology, there's always data in your hardware that you don't use for like process control, but you would want to use to diagnose issues with the system, right? So the internal temperature of a processing board is an important data point that machine learning almost certainly is going to care about, okay? I want to do one other thing real quick. So again, what we're looking at here is I've got a Zoom Edge. Zach, can you see my screen right now?
Yep. We're looking at your Zoom Edge.
The Zoom Edge unified namespace. All right, so what I've got is the Zoom Edge publishing directly into a cloud broker, which I just showed you. What I'm going to do is show you an example of how I can take a local unified namespace, okay, this board that I've got here on the right is, I've got a bunch of disparate systems here, okay? I've got a Slick 500 ControlLogix. I've got an EasyRack PLC. I got a Siemens S7 1200. I've got a CMT SVR from Maple Systems, and I have a Raspberry Pi and a Mqtt Wi-Fi AP on this board. All of them support the same technology. Now, what I'm doing here with the ControlLogix is that I talk to Kepware, and then Kepware has an IoT gateway that supports the technology that we're using. What I'm going to do is I am going to set up a transmitter. I'm going to set up a transmitter on my local machine here, and I'm going to show you how you can easily scale. I can take the unified namespace that's on this board, it'd be an area in your plant, and I'm going to show you what it looks like, and then I'm going to publish it into the enterprise unified namespace, okay? Again, inconsequential that I'm showing you that I'm doing this with Ignition. And again, I apologize to the factory studio guys, but I didn't have a chance.
We're going to be building out our digital mastermind project this year in frameworks. So,
all right. So can you see my tag structure, Zach?
I can see your tag structure. Yep.
Okay. So what you're looking at here, everyone, is this is the unified namespace on the board. Okay. So this is the data from the CMT SVR. I've got two thermocouples, room temperature and vent temperature in there. I've got on that broker, I've got the Dallas information, temperature information, and the Branson temperature information. I'm publishing the CMT SVR over SparkPlug-B as well. So this is flat MQTT from the Maple Systems device, and this is SparkPlug-B to show the difference. Okay.
Because it's broken down into tags via the engine.
Correct. And then I've got an OEE namespace. And then I've just got some generic tags, Walker test, Tank 1, and some fake stuff. But also what I have running is I have InfluxDB running on the Raspberry Pi. And InfluxDB supports the technology, okay, the same technology stack. And so what I'm doing is I'm publishing information from Telegraph. Telegraph is communications, how Influx will talk to like Grafana and stuff. And what I'm doing is I'm taking the raw data from the Raspberry Pi and I am publishing it into the unified namespace, okay? Now what I want to do is I want to take this namespace, which is not accessible in our enterprise broker, okay? It's not accessible. And what I want to do is I want to go to my transmitter. I already set the transmitter up, this demo board, and I'm going to enable it. So what's going to happen is we're going to publish the data to Dallas IIoT demo server 1. That's the SparkPlug-B settings. I'm going to enable this transmitter. I'm going to save changes. And then I just got to refresh my transmitter. I'm just doing this in transmission control.
So this could be an entire plant, or this could be an entire enterprise that you acquire for all intents and purposes that we're integrating live on this demo.
Absolutely. That's exactly the point. Yep. All right. And if I go back to my broker, so now I'm looking at my enterprise broker, the one in the cloud. We've got Dallas, IIoT demo server, and everything that's inside that namespace.
There it is.
Do you see it?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So what I want to do is real quick, I want to go over, and now I want to talk about frameworks real quick. Okay, so you can see Factory Studio.
We can see the Factory Studio powered by frameworks, your and-on project. Yep.
All right, cool. So everything that I just showed you was irrespective of the platform. What I just showed you, the architecture I showed you, the ability to be able to take a unified namespace and publish it to an enterprise class unified namespace, it's all, that's inconsequential. That is not solution specific, okay? That's technology specific. We're using a technology stack to do that. And we're using the exact same technology stack that we can use here in Factory Studio, okay? So, and the way that I would do that is, and you guys will see this in Frameworks University, we're going to teach you how to do this, is I can open my project in the engineering environment. Oh, you got to be kidding me. I just reset the license, man. Oh, there we go. Okay. Under devices, I can create MQTT brokers. So if I want to, I can create a MQTT Sparkplug B connection. I can create an MQTT, this is actually a channel, not a connection. I can create a Sparkplug B channel, okay? And by creating this, I can then now go in and create the node and subscribe to the namespace, okay? So and have all that entire unified namespace accessible within inside of frameworks and Factory Studio exactly the same way I just showed you. The exact same way that I can access that entire namespace using an off-the-shelf piece of software called Mqtt Explorer that didn't cost me anything, okay? And here I can switch back and forth between brokers. So this, and using the Explorer, I'm now viewing the unified namespace, the broker that's running on that Raspberry Pi. And if I want to, I can, I have another broker that's running, this is a Mqtt broker that's running in the cloud. I can connect to that one. A unified namespace is all about taking the namespaces from these disparate brokers and putting them together into a single unified namespace. All right, any questions about what I just showed? Phil Scruggs, Grafana's got some really neat plugins lately. It seems to have caught on. Lots of new data connectors. Yeah, that's right. Phil, here's my only issue with Grafana is, and with InfluxDB is it's limited to time series if you want to be effective, right? And so it's perfect as a node in the eco. I get this question a lot actually. Can I use the stack, the InfluxDB stack, as my unified namespace? And the answer is no, because all of the solutions in that stack are really developed for time series data only. But all right, any questions about what I've shown? Hopefully this was valuable. This piece was valuable to you guys. All right, let me go back to my presentation and close out. Some suggested reading, gang. There's a really good book out there that I think came out in like 2019. Zach, can you see my slide with my OneNote?
Yeah, we're looking at your things to look out for in 2021.
Great. So suggested reading. A couple of things here. Industry Today had a really good article on IIoT adoption in the post-COVID era. One of the biggest things that obviously I'm sure you guys have seen, and we have seen as well, is that there were a lot of manufacturers who COVID made them realize that they were ill prepared to manage their operations in a post-COVID era. Industry Today published an article in October that does a pretty decent job of touching on the important points from a 10,000-foot view. Okay, but what I would like to recommend you guys do is there's a book called The Digital Transformation Playbook by David L. Rogers, a guy from Columbia Business School. Rethink your business for the digital age. In a nutshell, what Rogers says is exactly what we preach. that digital transformation is a strategy, and it's a strategy designed to change the way that you do business. If you want to, it's a light read. If you guys subscribe to Scribd, you can listen to the audiobook for free if you want to. But those are two articles I would recommend. Arturs Grigals, is Factory Studio a spark plug primary app? Well, I'm not sure what I understand the question. Does it support Sparkplug B? The answer is yes. It can both decipher and publish in Sparkplug using the asset model and tags. Okay, things to look out for in 2021. Number one, we're going to be doing digital mastermind step 3, 4, and 5. So we're going to help educate the community even further on how to manage these types of projects. We're going to use the case studies to do that. Enterprise mentorship, that is, organizations that want their engineers to all be trained under our mentorship program. We're going to be offering it so that just a single organization, you can have a single organization subscribe and all your employees can go through it. MES 4.0 beta and the UNS Gateway beta will be launching at the end of the month. We're going to do 2 case studies that we'll release. Actually, there's going to be 3, but there's 2 I'm announcing. One is digital transformation case study on food and beverage. It was a 2-year engagement, fully digitally transformed an organization. We're doing machine learning, and we're doing machine learning right now with Expanse AI. They are members of the Discord server. And then we're doing an enterprise IIoT case study that was mobile water, wastewater, 200 rigs all over cellular connections, 500 to 800 topics per rig, all into a unified management application. We're going to be announcing a Sesame partnership. For those of you guys that don't know who Sesame is, I encourage you to go to their website, sesame.org. The president's a former Rockwell guy who defected and moved from the dark side. We're going to be doing a HiByte intelligence review and demo in March. HiByte can serve as the unified namespace. And then the 2 big things, the things that we're most excited for this year, and the whole purpose of this call is Frameworks University and our Factory Studio review and demo. Everything that I just showed you, we're going to be plugging Factory Studio into that ecosystem and replicating it, and then showing you the power of Factory Studio. One of the things I want to touch on real quick before I hand it off, to do what works, in terms of what works, when we're digitally transforming, we're basically creating a 2-pronged attack to connecting all the smart things into your ecosystem. The first part of that, the first prong, is using an IIoT platform that can talk to lots of things. Okay, it can talk REST, it can talk SOAP, it can talk OPC, blah, blah, blah. I'll answer Andre's question here in a second. You're using an IIoT platform to talk to all your legacy stuff, your legacy software and hardware, and then using the IIoT platform to convert the namespaces into your common technology stack. That's prong number 1. Prong number 2 is selecting new technology that supports your technology, or new hardware and software that supports your technology stack out of the box, so that it doesn't have to go through an IoT platform to become normalized and plugged into the ecosystem. So what I showed you earlier with the Zoom Edge is a perfect example of hardware. Yeah, sesame.org, John McKeon. The Zoom Edge is an example of technology that plugs directly into the ecosystem, hardware that plugs right into the ecosystem, and it doesn't have to go through anything. The Easy Automation Easy Rack PLC is an example of hardware that plugs directly into the ecosystem. CESMII.org, John. But a ControlLogix Slick 500 or ControlLogix PLC has got to go through. It has to go through an IIoT platform or an IIoT gateway to be converted into your technology stack. Okay. Your approach is two-pronged approach. Prong one is how do I get the legacy stuff in? Prong two is what are our specifications going to be for all of our machine builders, all of our software vendors going forward, so that they just plug into the ecosystem. Okay. And the last thing I want to touch on before I hand it over to the guys at TatSoft, I want to go over what the experts say. Okay. And I do experts in air quotes. Okay. And I'm not here to pick on Forrester, Navigant, or Gartner. What I'm using them to highlight the premise of my presentation, which is we have a bifurcation of thought in industry. Okay. The people at the C level and at the IT level think one way, and the people at the OT level think another way. And that bifurcation is a manifestation of the fact that people who live in the IT world and at the C level do not understand the realities of the plant floor. They've never written a PLC program. I use this illustration all the time. If I give the same functional specification and sequence of operations for a PLC program to 10 different PLC programmers, okay, if I give that the same SOO and the same functional specification to 10 different PLC programmers, they're going to write me 10 completely different programs that all do the exact same thing. And you know, some of them may use user-defined data types, some may not. Some may use AOI, some may not. Some may use a tag-based naming convention. Some may use a P&ID-based naming convention. Some may use a register-based naming convention or other. All of those things play directly into whether or not you're going to be able to plug that program into an IIoT infrastructure with minimal effort. The solution that everyone tries to, that the solution-centered approach that all these folks that are in this Venn diagram here, or in the Gartner, Magic Quadrant, is what they try to do is create objects to put in the PLC that then map to the software. And we know that that doesn't scale. First off, it's not all encompassing. It doesn't cover all the data. It doesn't cover all your needs. And so then you still have to have a plan for the stuff that their solution doesn't cover. Their solution-centered approach doesn't cover. This is why technology is the answer. This is why the technology stack is the answer. This is why a strategy approach is the answer. The OT folks are right. The IT folks are misguided. What we really need going forward in 2021 is for the C levels and for the folks at the C level and for the folks in the IT groups to take their knowledge, take their expertise, and use it to support the vision of the folks who are operating at the operational level. That's how digital transformation is going to be most successful. All right, with that, Zach, I'm going to hand it off to you to introduce the guys at TatSoft, and I'm going to answer a couple of questions while we're doing it. So Andre, what type of penetration into pharma, biopharma, regulated environments are we getting for Industry 4.0? Quite a bit, actually. If you look at the work that we're doing right now, and John McKeon can chime in on this too, because he's a life sciences guy. About half of the stuff that we're doing right now, that our team is doing right now, is life sciences and pharma. Food and beverage is another emerging industry. Exactly, John. Must start from the bottom up. So yes, there's a lot of penetration and a lot of wide adoption right now of the unified namespace approach in life sciences. Abdul, can Node-RED be used as an IoT gateway for control logics? Any comments on its reliability? It can be used as an IoT gateway for OPC. So from a piece of software that is that's communicating over the native drivers to a control logics. In terms of reliability, we're really only using Node-RED in non-critical applications or in research and development, proof of concept or pilot. But you generally want to move from Node-RED to another application, something that's designed for industry. But we use Node-RED, Raspberry Pis, Mosquito, to wireframe and do proof of concept though, all the time. All right, Zach, thank you.